This is an introduction to a collection of curious Jujutsu manuals, Volume 3. This book will be released in the fall of this year. This series highlights books about Jujutsu written in the Edo Era, Meiji Era, Taisho Era, and Showa Era. Some of the books in this series it's the full book, and other books it's just a section of it. The reason is some of these books are very complicated, and I'm trying to break them down into individual sections in order to make them available. There are 6 books featured in this. The first is by Fujita Seiko. Well, it's copied by Fujita Seiko from an Edo Era Yoshinryu document. The next is a selection of some Jujutsu, sumo, and fighting, as illustrated by Hokusai. The third book is an interesting volume. It's a police guide to how to handle victims of hanging or drowning. The fourth volume is part 2 of Fundamentals of Military Strategy, the Jujutsu sections there. The fifth book is actually a complete book. It's a short introduction to Jujutsu by a man named Yamada Kajiro. Don't really know anything about him. And the sixth book is Randori, and it's part 1 of this book. It's a very long book, and I'm going to be breaking it down into sections. First book is about Muto fighting unarmed against an armed opponent, and this is a book, I think it's of Yoshinryu. It's not actually clear. There's no text, but this is clearly fighting an unarmed opponent, or fighting an armed opponent while you are unarmed, and then taking their weapon from them. The next book is some of the Jujutsu, and especially the joint locks, as drawn by the famous artist Hokusai in the mid-Edo era. This is the police manual. This book was published in 1878, and it's how to revive people that have drowned or hung themselves. It shows some pretty shocking scenes of policemen having to take down victims that hung themselves. The next book is written in 1888, and it actually includes sword, Bojutsu, Tantojutsu, and as well as esoteric martial arts practices. It's a very large book and very interesting, and I'm trying to highlight some of the neat stuff in this book. This is the second part of this book, and it will cover the Shodan Tachiai kata from Yoshinryu, and this is 10 techniques, and these are the techniques here. This is what each page looks like. It's all Japanese and with a couple of illustrations. When I translate them, I broke it down and took 2 pages for each translation, and labeled all the illustrations. This is the second page of that technique. This is the complete volume. It's only about 10 or 15 pages long, and it's a real quick introduction to Jujutsu as taught by the author. There's not a lot of information about this guy or his school, but he seems to have been trying to start a Jujutsu academy. The final book is a very long book, and it's Randori Jujutsu. It's a guide to Jujutsu Randori, and it also includes resuscitation. This is a very complete guide. The first dozen or so pages are all taken from schools such as the Sekiguchi Ryu school, and it's their inner secrets, inner mysteries, philosophy of how to train, and important spiritual things to keep in mind while training. Towards the end of it, of this section that I'm translating, there's going to be some basic warm-up exercises, as well as a few strikes and an introduction to how to choke your opponent out. These are the stretches, the warm-up stretches, and this section is interesting because it has the dotted lines guiding how you're supposed to position your body. And this one as well is showing how to do a basic strike. This is the final section that shows how to grab for standard to do chokes. And there's also a short section on how to actually do chokes that I've included in this volume. Again, this is only the very, very first part of this book, and it's going to be a really, really long book with lots of neat illustrations. If you like these, also consider checking out Volume 1 and Volume 2 of a collection of curious Jujutsu manuals. Thanks for your time.